let's talk about foreign policy. Uganda is in a very interesting situation because lately, I think if you've been following current events, there are a few individuals whose names have been put on the line, motions going on in the United States. Yes, we're a sovereign country, talking of the Magnitsky Act. Uganda has troops in Somalia. There could be some in DRC. We are in a very interesting position with a failed government in South Sudan. I'm not so sure that works. There's very near chaos in DR Congo. We're not on talking terms. I think we are or we are not, depending on who you listen to, with Rwanda. What's your foreign policy plan?
Now, that's okay. In honesty, that's a very large question. You understand? But I'll start by saying this: we have 35 embassies, Uganda, in various places, and now our diplomacy is supposed to be moving away from political diplomacy to economic diplomacy. So we are supposed to be having embassies in places where we have good business, where those embassies can actually finance themselves by the amount of business they bring to Uganda. Now, I'll give you an example. They are starting a 36th embassy in Angola, which we didn't have, just because they are looking for a place for Kaka Bajenda, the man who has been in ISO terrorizing everybody. They want to give him some kind of retirement place, and you start an embassy for that. And now that is the thinking of what our foreign policy has been, because of the 36 ambassadors.
This includes the high commissioners?
High commissioners.
Okay.
Only 2 of them are career diplomats. The rest are either failed soldiers, failed politicians, people who are being given some kind of retirement thing, or people who they want away from Uganda. We don't want you here. So you give him, you give them an embassy so that they can go and keep themselves there. Now the trouble with that is they go and the embassy is not funded because there is no enough business in that country that is commensurate with, to have an embassy. For instance, we have an embassy in Iran. We don't have a lot of business with Iran. We do not have an embassy.
There used to be an Iranian trade fair. I think you and I remember those.
I think that was a personal, whatever. But at the country level, I'm not so sure we have too much business with Iran. We have a lot of business with Israel right now. For one, they are going to manage our elections, for good or for bad. But we have a lot of business with them. They are involved in a lot of our buying minerals from us and a lot of peculiar minerals in this place. We do not have an embassy in Tel Aviv or Jerusalem, whichever it is it would be. And Israel does not have an embassy in Uganda. So we don't understand what is the basis.
I think they have a consulate.
But it's in the process of being, it's been there and thereabouts. Since Amin expelled them, by the way, it's not been there. They've been flirting with starting it here. And I think it would be an important one.
So which nations do you think we need an embassy there? You seem to be planning to close some quite a bunch.
If we cannot afford some, we close them. Because embassies, even these ones here, they earn their money from here. A lot of those embassies are financed by money from here through visas and so on, and the businesses they have here and the interests they have here. You do not put up an embassy to spend money. You put up an embassy to have, it's just like starting a branch of a business. You do it to earn money. This is the modern thinking. It might be different from what it has been before, political diplomacy. But now in this one, embassies have to earn their right to exist by how many tourists are coming from your country to Uganda, what business are we getting from the country where your embassy is in Uganda, can your embassy finance itself in regard to how much money it brings to us, or is it a net profit or a net loss embassy? That way we actually start thinking through, diplomacy, number one. And second,
so
then also...
Just on that one, and I'd like to expand it because I think I like what you're saying, is you are saying the ambassador has KPIs, key performance indicators.
Yes.
If you don't make the money,
yes,
we either close you and recall you, or we have somebody who has a better plan to run that embassy come to replace you.
Exactly. Because we are not putting you there to just spend money. Because they are very underfunded, you know that. They are some of the most, you've traveled, you've seen Ugandan embassies, very underfunded, almost decrepit and abandoned in that state. And the ambassadors, because they are not even career diplomats, are busy doing hammering deals, and they have become deal masters in those countries. They're actually even an embarrassment to the country because they use their diplomatic immunity to do things which are of a very private nature, and sometimes very unscrupulous. So we have to, first of all, make sure, because just let me say this, all the ambassadors have got their career diplomats. There are people who do this kind of thing. And then we can have the key performance indicators. Then we can see what the, if you are in a country and we believe we have a lot more potential we can get from that country, but it's not coming because of you, then we will call you, put somebody else there. But if we see the country has no benefit to us as Uganda, rather than continuing spending money on it, we close down the embassy. But then also we have a foreign minister who cannot travel to America, otherwise he will be arrested because he was involved in stealing.
You said you didn't want to go there. You wanted
a certified
to discuss.
thief.
Yes.
For a foreign minister. He cannot even negotiate anything, because foreign ministers negotiate things like visas and so on. Now go to Rwanda. They negotiated with America, and Rwandans who get American visas for the most part get 10 years. They don't have to keep on going there. They get 10 years multiple transit, because Rwanda negotiated and said the Americans who are coming for the corridors and so on will make life easier for you, and they are in the process of negotiating. Uganda is the most exploited country when it comes to foreign embassies. There are embassies which are charging a lot of money, charging people visa fees, charging people DHL money to take your documents to another country where they are going to be taken. They are keeping passports sometimes for as long as 3 months. That is abuse of human rights. How can you keep somebody's passport for 3 months? So on what purpose? In those 3 months, I want to travel somewhere else. Now, this is a big problem, because I'll give you an example. There is a gentleman whom I knew who was involved in some kind of trade fair, and he had organic stuff which he thought of going to market in different countries. So he went and asked for a visa to Sweden, okay, and it is issued by Norway. Now they give all this litany of things which you have to bring before you're even accepted, before they even take your papers. Now you pay the money, they have contracted a local company here to take those papers. Guess who pays that company? The visa applicant. You pay for the visa, you pay for DHL fees to take your papers wherever it is, with your passport, wherever it is they have chosen to put the embassy.
And you're a third world country.
And you're a third world country, and you pay for the DHL fees back. That's not cheap. By the end of the day, you've paid for so many things. And then I discovered that country even has a 95% rejection rate for Ugandan passports. They are just stealing money. They are just stealing money from Ugandans. Now, we can change that if we had a true foreign minister, where we say, it is your country, you have the right to decide who goes there. However, you don't have the right to keep on taking visa fees and not giving visas. Tell Kasumba you've qualified for a visa, now bring the fees. If he has not qualified, why do you take his money? Because that is theft. Now, we are not going to have so-called first world countries stealing money from us in the name of visas, and then they are rejecting 95% of those applications. Now, those are things which can be changed if we had a proper foreign ministry. And those are some of the things which I have to start with, because then we cannot have a scenario where you keep somebody's passport for 3 months. In that time, he has to travel other places. It's not just your country. I mean, is he going to heaven?
So your argument
is your country heaven that he has to 3 months?
I'm not so sure heaven would use the same treatment for admission.
If you told me 3 months heaven, I would say no problem, take it. But any other place, why do you hold my passport for 3 months?
So you're basically saying
you need a week to decide whether you're giving me the visa or not. If you're not giving it to me, bring back my passport. There are other countries which I would rather travel to for holiday if you don't want. But don't charge people visa fees unless the visa has been issued.
Okay. You raise a very interesting one. If there are visa fees and I have no visa, then what fees are they?
Exactly.
Because they are visa fees.
Those are theft fees.
Interesting one. So you're saying that is a problem solved by getting a better negotiator. Let me give you an example. Maybe it speaks to what you're saying. The most immediate French ambassador, Her Excellency Stephanie Rivoire, was from civil society, NGO world, before she had her first assignment as an ambassador here in Uganda. And if you saw the way she went about her business, it was completely revolutionary. Is that the sort of approach you're saying we want a pragmatic person inside our embassy who is going to go out there, change our image, get Uganda doing business in a country?
Exactly. But then the pragmatism starts with the appointment. Now, what kind of ambassador is Kaka Bajenda going to be? What does he know about diplomacy? He only knows how to tie people's cuffs and knock them, you know, and torture people. How can you send somebody?
We could do well to stay out of there.
Listen, how can you send somebody who is an expert in torture as an ambassador? What kind of thinking is that? He doesn't know anything about diplomacy. That's the last thing he knows. So why appoint him as an ambassador? Now, the reason those people appoint somebody like that who has been in the NGO world is because probably they see the biggest business they have in Uganda is with the NGOs. So they look around their pool of diplomats, trained diplomats, and they say, who would be best suited for the NGO world? And then they pick us specifically to come to Uganda for that purpose. Now, that's how you do diplomacy. Because then they know maybe we have so many NGOs running in Uganda. This woman would be in position to understand that, and she's one of our diplomats. So they send her. Now, why are we sending failed politicians as ambassadors? We have degraded. It's one of the things that has been totally bastardized by this Museveni regime.
So who would you send to the US? What kind of individual would you send to the US and UK? Top of mind.
I can't mention names. But
no, not mine. Individual. Kind of individual, depending on what your interest would be.
Number one, when we're talking about US, there are so many things we're talking about. That's a country that our embassy there should be comfortably able to fund itself. Number one, by changing our image. So there has to be somebody who is a diplomat, perhaps who has been in the process of PR, or, you know, changing the image of the country. Number of tourist arrivals. We task them, make sure we have this number of tourist arrivals from America, because that's a very huge market.
Okay.
Make sure you sell all these number of things. And there's a lot of business in America,
Okay.
honestly. Those are
Fantastic. Let's move along.
Reclaiming the nation. It's a